Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. ISCJ, Bismillah, Alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina wa Habibina Maulana Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam tasliman kathiran kathiran kathira. Amma ba'd. Allahumma arina al-haqqa haqqa warzuqna tiba'a wa arina al-batila batila warzuqna ijtinaba. Ameen. Inshallah, we're going to cover juz number 20. We're kind of playing catch up right now. But khair, inshallah, we're going to get caught up with the Imam by the end of tonight. So, juz number 20 covers Surah Al-Naml, Surah Al-Qasas, and Surah Al-Ankabut. Surah Al-Naml is named after the ant because of one of the verses that I'll speak briefly about today, about the interaction between Sulaiman alayhi salam and the ant. Surah Al-Naml makes a very strong point about the greatest hindrance for mankind is the denial of the hereafter. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes his case regarding the universe and the evident signs that he's presented in front of you to get you to believe and recognize that Allah exists and this is all the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But he points out that the greatest hindrance that exists is that man's denial of hereafter. It's what makes him selfish. It's what makes him irresponsible. There's a lack of accountability, and the person becomes more inclined towards what's worldly and materialistic, and they can't accept the moral restrictions that Allah has placed on their lusts and their desires. And so Allah paints the picture of people that were given wealth, right? Nations that were given a lot, and what they did with those blessings and those bounties. So the first example that Allah uses in the surah is that of Fir'aun. So this is one type of category of people. Fir'aun and the chiefs of Thamud and the people of Lut alayhi salam. And their issue was that they became slaves of the world. They were not slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they didn't believe in Allah even after seeing miracles with their own eyes. After seeing miracles with their own eyes and witnessing them, they still would not believe. As a matter of fact, even when they were warned about the punishment, that the punishment is coming, the prophets that came to them would tell them the punishment is coming. Even then, at the moment when the punishment was coming, they were still in denial. And they would turn away from this admonishment and these warnings, and they would continue on with their evil ways. So that was one category of people that Allah talks about. Then he talks about almost a diametrically opposite category of people, which was Sulaiman alayhi salam, who was given, abundant wealth from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he recognized that he was answerable to Allah and that all of this was from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala anyway. It was not something that he had attained from his own two hands. And so he adopted the characteristic of obedience, right? He adopted the attitude of obedience, so much so that there was not a sign of vanity left in him. And then there is Sheba, Queen Sheba, right? Which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about in this surah, that she ruled over, some known people in Arabia, and they had adopted shirk, right? Because Shaitan had led them astray, and when the truth became evident to her, she was not so deluded by her own lusts and desires. As a matter of fact, there were still remnants of her fitrah, her pure moral compass that she was born with, that took over and allowed her to accept Islam when Sulaiman alayhi salam invited her into it. And Surah Al-Naml is also, famous and comes up in trivia questions quite a bit, which is the surah that has mentioned Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim twice. So obviously it's in the beginning of this surah, and then it's in the beginning of the letter that Sulaiman alayhi salam writes to Queen Sheba. The interaction that takes place between Sulaiman alayhi salam and the ants is an interesting one, where the ant, one of the ants tells the rest of the ants as Sulaiman alayhi salam's army is coming, "O ants, enter your dwellings that you may not be crushed by Sulaiman and his soldiers." and they may not see you, right? So get inside of the anthill. And Sulaiman alayhi salam, he smiles and he's amused by this, and he makes a dua where he says, "Rabbi awzi'ni an ashkura ni'mataka allati an'amta alayya wa ala walidayya wa an amala salihan tarada'ahu wa adkhilni bi rahmatika fi ibadika as-salihin." O my Lord, enable me to be grateful for your favor which you have bestowed upon me and upon my parents, and to do righteousness of which you approve, and admit me by your mercy into the ranks of your righteous servants. So Sulaiman alayhi salam, he recognizes that the ni'mah, the bounties that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given him is from him. And he's using that to then almost deflect it and glorify, use that, those bounties and be grateful for it, number one. And then number two, then glorify Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's name. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increases him more and more in those bounties. So it's a lesson for us to always be grateful, but then also turn it back and give it back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because he is ultimately the source where it came from in the first place. Then let's move on to Surah Al-Qasas, inshallah. And this is really verse number 10. And you know what this talks about, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأَصْبَحَ فُؤَادُ أُمِّ مُوسَى فِرَاغًا إِنْ كَادَتْ لَتُبْدِي بِهِ لَوْلَا أَوْ رَبَطْنَا عَلَى قَلْبِهَا لِتَكُونَ مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. He says, and the heart of Moses' mother became empty of everything. She was about to disclose a matter concerning him, had we not bound fast her heart that she would be of the believers. So this talks about really that, you know, all human beings, we're going to suffer emotionally while we're here in this dunya, right? We're all going to inevitably go through some sort of traumatic experience. It's part of the human experience, whether it's a job loss or a family member passes away, or we lose our home, you know, or some of the unimaginable atrocities and horrors and some of the horrific reality that some people live in. I mean, today, right now, you know, at this moment, there are tanks that Israel is sending, right? Israel is sending tanks into Gaza right now, and they've started the ground invasion of Gaza, and you know, and we don't live in that, and it's hard to imagine some of these realities, but they are reality for people. And this is an ayah of great hope, because sometimes people think that they can't recover ever again. And so Musa alayhi salam, you know, she is commissioned with this huge task, right? You can imagine the love that a mother has for her child, to take the child and throw him into the river in this basket, right? She doesn't know if the basket is going to hold up. She doesn't know if the basket is going to topple over, if there's you know, animals in the river, crocodiles and alligators and what have you, that can eat her child, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that وَأَصْبَحَ, that فُؤَادُ أُمِّ مُوسَى فِرَاغًا, that the heart of Musa alayhi salam, when she does this, it becomes completely empty, right? It's almost like she's in emotional paralysis, right? Like you walk in front of somebody and they've just been given some, you know, some news, and they're completely awestruck that somebody dear and near to them just passed away, and you look at them and there's no emotion on their face. So you can go like this and they're not there, right? Nothing checks in, right? And so that's how she became, right? That's the state that she was in. And then Allah said, had we not firmed her heart, had we not, لَوْلَا أَرَبَتْنَا عَلَى قَلْبِهَا. So she had this inflamed heart. So he talks about her heart being an inflamed heart by using the word fu'ad. And then he says, had we not calmed her heart, right? Had we not made it firm, Rabatna, she would have told them that my son, he's, you know, I just let him go in the river. And then if she would have gave that away, they would have surely chased down the basket and slaughtered Musa alayhi salam, as they were doing to all the male babies at that time. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he calms her heart and he makes her firm. And he basically, through this, you know, he intervenes. And he basically brings her into an emotional state where she can learn to then cope with this loss. And so, the lesson being told to us is that, look, she's not a prophet, right? Musa alayhi salam is a prophet, but his mother is not a prophet. And so that gives you and I hope as regular human beings that Allah can intervene, and He will intervene and give you peace of mind, and He'll give you, peace of heart, and He'll give you that tranquility once again after you've endured and suffered through this great loss or whatever it is that was so emotionally traumatizing for you. If you lost a child, if you lost a parent, if you were just somebody called you, the physician called you and told you that somebody that you love or you yourself have cancer or something that's terminal, right? This is something very difficult to cope with. And there are people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He just lets them go on their way and they emotionally never recover. But if you make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and if we're people that have faith in Him, right, then He will then intervene, and He will make our hearts firm, and He will calm our hearts down, and He will bring us into an emotional state where we can then learn to cope with this emotional trauma, and we can learn to then, eventually, as they say, time heals all wounds. We can allow time to work on us, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and faith in Him to work on us, to then eventually start to live with that loss. Not to say that you would fully ever forget it, or you will fully ever recover, but you'll be well on your road to recovery, and perhaps you will fully recover as well, and start to taste joy once again in your life. So, whatever it is, that thing that scarred you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the healer of those scars. And if you call on Him, and especially in these nights of Ramadan, and reach out to Him and ask Him to bring your heart in such a state where you can now deal with that loss, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will come to your aid, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. So that's it for our time for today, inshallah, for juz number 20. Barakallahu li wa lakum, wa akhiru da'wana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alameen.